From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Good Wednesday morning. It's 4:30. Welcome to Montana This Morning. I'm Victoria Hill. Thank you for getting the day started with us.
And I'm Ed McIntosh, as we're often going on what's going to be a really warm and very windy day.
Yeah, the wind was something else. It's trying to transition us easily. See, it blew us into the heat. You like that? No? Did that work? Because yesterday was cooler. Today's hotter. No? Yeah?
Okay.
You can use that one later if you want.
I will. Okay. Let's start off here by taking a look with the first interstate ICAM at 61 degrees. And there's that southwest wind that's blowing us into those warmer temperatures. I'm working with you on this. 84 yesterday, close to the 30-year average of 81. But this top wind gust by the afternoon almost reached 40 miles an hour at the airport. And today we could be talking about wind gusts almost reaching 50 miles an hour by the time we're later on into the day. The morning temperatures are anywhere from 47 in Butte all the way up into those 60s. 67 for you in Cody this morning and in Livingston. 68 up in Cut Bank, but the winds are already starting to pick up down the East Mountain slopes. It was breezy through yesterday afternoon, especially strong winds in the mountain foothills. And with most of the temperatures starting off in the 50s and 60s here through southern Montana, by the time we get into the afternoon, highs moving up into the low 90s are possible. The clouds increase a little bit as the cold front moves through, but the big story will be that wind. We'll take a closer look at that coming up in a few minutes.
Yes, hold on to your hats and garbage cans, I guess, is that wind.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah. All right, Ed. Well, I will get on to the news side of things. Thank you.
Thanks.
Our top story this morning, the suspect accused in a Shepherd shooting that led to a manhunt in Billings last month is finally behind bars. 32-year-old Brian Prettyweasel was taken into custody at a Taco John's drive-thru in Butte. Officers located him because he backed into another car at the restaurant. On August 6th, police were forced to shut down the Billings Heights for 6 hours as they searched for Prettyweasel and another suspect. They found 29-year-old Talon Fritzler that afternoon and arrested him on a previous warrant. The men are accused of shooting a Shepherd homeowner after he confronted them for trying to steal an ATV ramp. There's been a massive increase in violent crime in Billings and Yellowstone County, and officials say drugs and the pandemic are to blame. From March to April, almost 70 more violent crimes have been reported here than the same time period last year. Those crimes include 8 murders and many more non-fatal shootings, stabbings, and robberies. U.S. Attorney Kurt Alme says meth use is up across the region, and it's also harder to come by.
Meth supply is down, and the reason for that is because precursor chemicals from China have been disrupted in their transportation to the cartels in Mexico. And also with the changes in the southern border brought on by COVID, we're seeing disruptions in distribution into the United States. And that has reduced the supply of meth and increased the price to approximately double. By the same token, we know that meth use is up. And that's creating, as you can imagine, a price increase. That's contributing to some of the issues that we're seeing on the street.
Authorities also announced COVID-19 will not prevent full prosecution of drug dealers and domestic abusers. The Environmental Protection Agency wants to add a contaminated patch of land near downtown Billings to a national priority list for a Superfund cleanup. In 1991, officials discovered dry cleaning chemicals had seeped into groundwater at the former site of Big Sky Linen on Central Avenue. Billings Mayor Bill Cole says the move will make it easier to access federal dollars for monitoring and mitigation. The chemicals are worrisome because they can vaporize and are dangerous to breathe in. Turning to national news now, President Trump went to Kenosha, Wisconsin yesterday, despite local leaders asking him to stay away. The president toured buildings that were damaged during the protests that followed a police officer's shooting of Jacob Blake. President Trump called the unrest domestic terror and thanked the law enforcement agencies that responded. The president did not meet with Blake or his family. Small businesses in Kenosha are beginning to tally up the losses from the damage. Reporter Ashar Qureshi reports on the uncertainty owners are facing and the emotional toll it's taking.
You ain't touching my dojo, that's a fact. With her mask on, Taekwondo student Shelly Meyer live streamed on Facebook as she stood guard outside her dojo.
I'm getting real scared. I know I'm a military vet and everything, but I am outnumbered here. They came across the street and then attacked the school.
Please, not the academy, I'm begging you, no.
Another group of protesters surrounded me and built a human shield.
Today, the school is still standing. Damages estimated in the tens of thousands.
She single-handedly geared up and, begged and pleaded in the face of people spitting and throwing stuff at her, protected our building.
But down the block that night, another business was not so lucky.
The cars are just blowing up one by one.
Like dominoes, the dealership's cars detonated one tank at a time. Witnesses say the flames started in one car and quickly engulfed the entire lot. The owners estimate the losses in the millions. The inferno, which burned for hours, left more than 100 cars completely destroyed.
There's explosion after explosion. Every time it explodes, it extends or grabs the next car.
For owners Sahel and Anmol Kendry, their American dream has turned nightmare.
We built this place up from ground up. That office right there, as you can see, it's in ashes right now. It's done. It's gone.
Charred scraps, shattered glass, and tires melted to the core are all that remain.
It's going to cost us more money to remove this car off the lot than it's worth itself.
And more than a week since the destruction, they're still not sure how they will recover financially. They're hoping for some assistance, though it's unclear whether their insurance will pay out at all.
We had nothing to do with it, and we're the one who's getting penalized for this.
It's a similar story up and down Kenosha's business district. Boarded up storefronts decorated with colorful messages of hope mask the damage and loss. Back at the Taekwondo Academy, their judo coin symbol has been painted outside the boarded up exterior, a symbol of resilience.
The more that we can rely on each other, as a community, we can stay protected.
In Kenosha, Wisconsin, I'm Usher Qureshi.
In other news, the White House has announced an unprecedented nationwide moratorium on evictions. It applies to renters who are struggling to pay for housing. To be eligible, individuals must make less than $99,000 a year, and for couples, it's less than $198,000 a year. The eviction ban will be in effect through the end of the year. Landlords can still hold renters responsible for missed payments. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin says he wants to reach a bipartisan coronavirus relief package. He made the comment while testifying in front of the House subcommittee investigating the federal response to the pandemic. Talks between Democrats and the Trump administration on a new relief package broke down early last month. Mnuchin promised he would return to the negotiating table and said he would call House Speaker Nancy Pelosi following the hearing. Pelosi confirmed he made that call, but the two sides are still more than $1 trillion apart. In campaign news, history is made as the Kennedy family's perfect political record in Massachusetts is no more. CBS's Laura Podesta has the latest on what was a hotly contested Senate primary.
For the first time in history, a Kennedy has lost an election in Massachusetts.
Obviously, these results were not the ones we were hoping for.
Senator Ed Markey, an incumbent who's been in politics for 40 years, prevailed in Tuesday's primary against the 39-year-old Joe Kennedy, grandson of Robert F. Kennedy.
Thank you, Massachusetts.
Markey relied on young progressives to extend his tenure, touting his support for a Green New Deal and Medicare for all. And with the help of an endorsement by liberal firebrand Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the senator cruised to a win.
This campaign has always been about the young people of this country. You are our future. And thank you for believing in me, because I believe in you.
Kennedy entered the race polling high, but his campaign ran aground when he struggled to articulate a motivation for running. He needled Markey for skipping votes and not engaging with constituents.
But he missed over 50% of the votes in this critical time of COVID-19, a public health and economic catastrophe.
State election officials say mail-in ballots and in-person votes could combine for record high turnout this primary season. Markey will go on to face Republican Kevin O'Connor in November in a race that is widely considered a safe Democratic seat. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
Under Massachusetts law, a candidate cannot run for House and Senate at the same time, so Kennedy will not be returning to Congress in January. His political future remains unclear. Now on campus news, more than 25,000 COVID cases have been reported at colleges and universities in the U.S. The cases span across 37 states. CNN's Melissa Rainey reports on what precautions colleges are taking to prevent the continued spread of the virus.
As some students attempt to return to campus, colleges and universities in 37 states have been hit by coronavirus. More than 25,000 cases and counting. At the University of Missouri, more than 420 students have active cases. Officials at Utah State University say they've discovered evidence of the virus in a different way, in wastewater samples collected from 4 residence halls on campus, prompting mandatory testing and quarantine for students living there. University leaders in Illinois say they are working to stay ahead of the virus, testing everyone on campus often.
We're testing every week, twice a week, everybody, faculty, staff, students. So we're catching a lot of asymptomatic carriers, just as Dr. Burke said, in that age range. So we put them in what I like to think of as comfortable isolation, immediately working with the public health authorities, where they can continue their studies and they have food and they have all the medical attention on a daily basis. And anybody who's been exposed by that carrier also gets a notification and they go into quarantine, and we have housing set aside for all of that.
After a 2-week delay, the University of Minnesota will reopen campus dormitories on 2 campuses over the next 2 weeks. However, Twin Cities students will face restrictions for the first several days and only be able to leave their dorm rooms to go to classes, eat, work, or be outdoors. The university's president warning it will be far from the typical college experience.
I don't think I could be anything but honest with you to say that first period is not going to be much fun.
I'm Melissa Rainey reporting.
This week, a White House coronavirus task force report alerted officials in Iowa to take more precautions against the virus. It called for a mask mandate, the closure of bars, and for university towns to do more as the pandemic intensifies in the Midwest. Now we go to Hardin, where school officials are allowing some sports to continue after originally putting them on pause for 2 weeks. Middle school and high school volleyball, cross country, and golf will be back at practice after being put on hold for multiple positive COVID cases in students. Football and cheerleading will remain on temporary suspension until the 11th. Also making headlines this morning, a group of Whitefish property owners want the city to change the name of the lake they live on because they say it's offensive. The petition asks the name of Lost Coon Lake to be changed to Lost Loon Lake. The 61-acre lake is located partially within city limits south of Whitefish. Court documents state the name has racist connotations and goes against the city's code of honoring and welcoming the diversity of all citizens and visitors.